Rome had won its wars. Carthage had been erased from the map. The seas were Roman, the roads led to Rome, and no rival power stood in their way. Gold, grain, and slaves poured into the city. Senators built marble homes. Generals returned to cheering crowds. But in the alleys of the capital, poor citizens begged for bread. Homeless veterans once hailed as heroes now wandered the streets. The Republic had become rich, but not equal. And in that gap, between promise and power, between law and ambition, a storm began to form. Because while Rome had conquered the world, it was about to lose something far greater: its soul. After the fall of Carthage in 146 BCE, Rome was not just a city. It was a rising superpower. But with victory came responsibility. Rome was no longer a collection of farmers and warriors defending a small patch of land. It was now a sprawling empire, with territories stretching from Hispania, modern Spain, to Greece, North Africa, and parts of Asia Minor. Each of these new lands became a province, regions outside Italy governed by magistrates appointed by the Senate. These governors had incredible power. They collected taxes, enforced law, and commanded local garrisons. But the provinces also created new temptations. Many governors used their position to enrich themselves. They overtaxed the locals, stole resources, and sent only a fraction back to Rome. Some built private armies using provincial funds. Others returned to the capital with fortunes so large they could buy entire voting blocks in the Senate. Rome's economy became dependent on conquest. Provinces provided grain, silver, slaves, and luxury goods like silk, wine, and spices. But this wealth didn't reach everyone. While senators built marble villas from provincial riches, Roman citizens, especially soldiers, came home to poverty. Even more troubling, the constant expansion meant Rome was almost always at war. In Greece, they defeated the Macedonian kings and absorbed the cultural heart of the ancient world. In Asia Minor, Rome battled rebellious kings like Mithridates of Pontus, whose wars cost tens of thousands of Roman lives. In Hispania, resistance was fierce and long. Tribes refused Roman rule for decades. These campaigns exhausted the army and poured more slaves into Italy, flooding the economy and putting small farmers out of work. Instead of stabilizing Rome, the provinces fueled inequality. They turned senators into kings and soldiers into tools of ambition. Rome now had the world in its grasp, but it had lost its balance. Meanwhile, soldiers who had spent years fighting for Rome came back to nothing. Their farms had been taken or destroyed. Their families pushed into debt. Many were forced to sell what little they had and move into the city, where they joined the growing class of landless poor. Rome became a city of contrast: luxury on the hills, desperation in the slums. Out of this crisis rose two men who tried to fix it: Tiberius and Gaius Gracchus, brothers born into privilege but driven by justice. Both were elected as tribunes of the plebs, officials meant to defend the rights of common citizens. Tiberius proposed redistributing land taken by the rich and giving it to poor farmers. The Senate was furious. They accused him of tyranny. And when he ran for re-election, a rare move, they struck. In 133 BCE, a mob of senators and their supporters beat Tiberius to death with wooden benches inside the Capitol. His brother Gaius followed years later, trying again to pass reforms. This time, the Senate used soldiers. When his support crumbled, Gaius chose suicide over public execution. The message was clear. In Rome, reform could cost your life. What followed was something new. Politicians began turning to generals, not laws, to protect their power. The armies, once loyal to the Republic, now swore loyalty to the men who paid them. In the face of Rome's growing crisis, one man offered a new path forward: Gaius Marius. A brilliant general and a political outsider, Marius rose to fame by defeating foreign enemies like Jugurtha in North Africa and Germanic tribes threatening Rome from the north. But his greatest legacy wasn't on the battlefield. It was in the way he changed the Roman army. Before Marius, only landowning citizens could join the legions. But Marius threw out that rule. He began recruiting the poor, landless men with no future, no property, and no stake in the Republic. These soldiers didn't fight for Rome. They fought for Marius because he promised them land and rewards after victory. In doing so, Marius unintentionally created a new kind of army, loyal not to the Senate, but to the general who paid and fed them. The consequences were enormous. Future generals would copy this model. Armies would become private political tools, able to sway elections or crush rivals. Marius himself held an unprecedented 7 consulships, breaking traditions meant to prevent dictatorship. Then came Lucius Cornelius Sulla, another general, and Marius's former ally turned bitter enemy. Sulla was chosen by the Senate to command the Roman army in the war against Mithridates VI, the king of Pontus in Asia Minor. But while Sulla was away preparing, Marius and his allies passed a law transferring the command to Marius instead. Furious, Sulla did the unthinkable. He marched his army on Rome. This had never happened before. Roman legions were supposed to defend the Republic, not occupy it, but Sulla took the city, slaughtered opponents, and reclaimed his command. He then went east, defeated Mithridates, and returned to Rome stronger than ever. Sulla declared himself dictator, not for 6 months as tradition allowed, but indefinitely. He published prescriptions, public death lists. Anyone on them could be killed and their property taken. Thousands died. The Republic was now soaked in blood. But oddly, once he completed his reforms, Sulla resigned and retired. He claimed to have restored the Republic, but really he had destroyed its boundaries. He proved that with an army and enough ambition, anyone could seize Rome. And in the next generation, someone did. Julius Caesar, a rising politician and brilliant speaker, had watched it all. He was ambitious, deeply connected to the populist cause, and willing to take risks. After rising through the ranks of Roman politics, he became governor of Gaul, where he launched one of the most brutal and effective campaigns in Roman history. Over the course of nearly a decade, Caesar conquered all of Gaul, modern-day France and Belgium, and even crossed into Britain. He defeated massive tribal coalitions, built bridges over rivers in days, and wrote about his campaigns in the famous Commentari de Bello Gallico, commentaries on the Gallic War. His fame soared. His legions adored him. His enemies in the Senate began to panic. In 49 BCE, when ordered to return to Rome without his army, Caesar chose war. He crossed the Rubicon River, uttering the now legendary phrase, "Alea iacta est," the die is cast. With that step, civil war erupted. Caesar marched into Italy, his enemies fled. He chased them across Greece and North Africa, defeating Pompey and the Senate's loyalists. By 45 BCE, he was the undisputed ruler of Rome. He was appointed dictator for life, reformed the calendar, expanded the Senate, and planned even more sweeping changes. But for all his reforms, Caesar's rise terrified the elite. Many feared he would declare himself king. On the Ides of March, 44 BCE, a group of senators led by Brutus and Cassius attacked him in the Senate House. They stabbed him 23 times. Caesar died at the feet of a statue of Pompey, his old rival. And with him, the Republic took its final breath. The senators thought they were saving the Republic. Instead, they had opened its grave. Without Caesar, there was no balance, only chaos. His death set off a chain reaction of war, betrayal, and one final transformation. In the next episode, Caesar's heir rises, Rome gains an emperor, and the Republic becomes an empire. Enjoying the journey through history? Make sure to hit that subscribe button and join our community of history enthusiasts. Don't forget to leave a comment below. Tell us what you think, share your favorite historical insights, or suggest a topic you'd love to see us explore. And if you know someone who would love diving into the past, share this video with them. Let's uncover history together.